Hey everyone, Bill Barhydt here. Welcome to the Abra Money 3.0 show where I talk about the future of money and technology. This episode is an edited audio version of a recently recorded Money Talks live AMA. There's also a video version of this podcast available on youtube.com/Abra Global. Again, that's youtube.com/Abra Global. The information presented in this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and should not be used or construed as an offer to sell or a solicitation of an offer to buy any of the financial assets discussed. Neither Abra nor any of the participants in this podcast make any representation as to the suitability or appropriateness of these financial assets for individual investors. Investors must make their own determination, either alone or in consultation with their own financial advisors, as to the suitability or appropriateness of such investments. Abra interest accounts are issued by Prime Trust and Nevada Chartered Trust Company. Rates for Abra interest accounts are subject to change. Digital currencies are not legal tender, are not backed by any government, and Abra interest accounts are not subject to FDIC or SIPC insurance protections. Why do I love Bitcoin? I love Bitcoin because I don't have to trust anyone. I know that there's a fixed supply over time, right? And if there's less of something that's valuable, it should become more valuable as demand increases. And the underlying fundamentals basically are telling me that this is playing out. Now, there's going to be day-to-day fluctuations. It's a new asset class that didn't exist even 15 years ago. And you're going to see these interim jumps up and down in price. Okay, that's simply the way it is for a new asset class. But again, if you're in this for the long term, the future looks really, really bright for Bitcoin. Okay, so again, good morning. Welcome to Money Talks. We've got people checking in here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope. We're up to thousands and thousands of views of these Money Talks episodes every week now. Thank you for your support for that. I see questions coming in already from lots of different countries. Why don't we get to a few questions and then we'll come back to some other points. You're free to ask questions on anything to do with cryptocurrency, economics, anything to do with the Abra app, how it works, our new interest account, and we'll get to all of those questions. Okay, so can you walk, this comes from Victor. Good morning, Victor. Can you walk through an interest-only account, True USD, from USD to interest earning back to USD? Is there a way to automate the withdrawal of interest? So Victor, let me just clarify here. I'll bring up my my app here. So if I go over to the Abra interest account, this is our app demo. You'll see that I'm earning interest in both PAX in dollars as well at the bottom in True USD. Both are USD equivalents because they're stable coins. So once you're in the Abra app, you are in and you're holding a stable coin in dollars. From our perspective, you're in dollars. Okay, so you can earn interest in PAX, you can earn interest in True USD. You can see at the bottom here, you can earn interest in USDC, you can earn interest in Tether. It makes no difference to us. You can withdraw interest anytime you want. Usually it's the same day. We reserve the right for large deposits for up to 7 days, but generally by and large, almost all of our users are able to get any money they want out immediately. Now, I leave interest in the app because it compounds, meaning I'm getting interest on my interest. So I would recommend doing that, but if you want to withdraw the interest, you can do it anytime. Interest is generally paid out on Monday morning specific time. And like I said, it's available to you immediately once it's in the app. And I love getting those push messages on Monday morning that I have a new interest payment. So I hope that answers your question, Victor. If it doesn't, feel free to ask a follow-up. Also, if you have specific support questions related to Abra, we do have support folks that join us on our Money Talks calls and a show, and they're on Facebook and Twitter, even monitoring the YouTube questions. So feel free to ask questions anywhere. If it's specific to you, they may answer you directly. And if it's more of a general question, I'll try to get to it here on the show. Does Abra block anyone on buying crypto from them? This is a question from Patrick. Patrick, we do onboard people because we have banking partners that process the payments for cryptocurrencies. If you're depositing in dollars, for example, and you have to go through what's called the KYC or Know Your Customer process for onboarding. And every once in a while, there's a chance that somebody might be blocked. for whatever reason, especially if they've committed some kind of fraud in the past. But generally, by and large, once you go through that KYC process, you're good to go. And we've had hundreds of thousands of people go through this process and no problems at all. So good question there. Roman asks, Bill, can you give us a roadmap for Abra for the rest of 2020? Now, Roman, what fun would that be if I gave it all away? No, seriously. So we do have some awesome stuff coming down the pipe. As you know, we launched the Abra interest account for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stablecoins, US dollar based, a few weeks ago, and the interest has been awesome. We've had millions coming in. Dollars worth of deposits into the interest accounts. So we're very grateful for that. Thank you for your support. We are building on that. We're building more business partnerships through our institutional lending desk to generate low risk interest for all of you on those deposits. We've got more consumer facing features. We've got more cryptocurrencies coming. I'm not going to give it all away, but I would definitely invite you all to join next week because we've definitely going to have some surprises for you on next week's show as well. Okay, so sorry, Roman, I'm not going to give it all away today, but I promise you there is some pretty good, cool stuff coming down the pipe here. Walter asks, what tax documents are you required to fill as someone with a Bitcoin wallet / account? So Walter, this is a country-specific question, and I'm not a tax attorney or an accountant, but I'll answer from the U.S. perspective. Generally, you pay capital gains if you make a profit, for example, on trading Bitcoin. Abra gives you documents at the end of the year in the form of a transaction history that you can use, and you should be able to get a 1099 from Abra as well, which is, again, a U.S.-specific tax document on your interest earnings via the Abra app, okay? And then Raj asks, this is a question on the Abra deposits. Does Abra continue to hold a deposit for a period of days? And if people need to use the money or the interest that they generate quickly, this could be a deal breaker. So Raj, there's multiple ways to get money in and out of the Abra account. So let me show you here. At the bottom right, there's a withdraw function. And you can see I can do a bank ACH transfer, a bank wire, I can send to a crypto wallet. And if I'm in other countries like in Central America, shout out to our friends in Guatemala, for example, or in Southeast Asia, shout out to our friends in the Philippines, for example. They also have a function to withdraw as cash, where they can walk into a cash outlet to do that. If you happen to use a bank ACH transfer to deposit money in the US, you may have a delay in withdrawing the money via ACH, and that's to prevent bank fraud. ACH in the US, our bank system here is arcane. I apologize for that. That's part of what we're trying to solve with crypto. Our bank system is arcane, and therefore it's rampant with fraud. And so to protect everyone, especially our users, from rising fees related to fraud, there is a hold on withdrawals related to ACH. Now you can still trade, you can still earn interest, but there's no delay if you deposit via wire or crypto. You can withdraw the money even via ACH immediately, okay? So I hope that makes sense. And we're always looking at ways to make everything faster, but for now, yeah, you can access the funds in real time if you come in via bank wire or crypto deposit, okay? How do you select cryptos to give interest on? Let's talk about giving interest on Digibyte. All right, shout out, it's from Joe. Shout out to the Digibyte community. We love you guys. So that's a good question about how we choose assets to pay interest on. So the most important requirement for interest is demand from borrowers, and not only demand from any borrower, but from a high quality borrower. And for us, a high quality borrower is someone who either has a significantly strong balance sheet and or has collateral that they can provide in a different asset, usually a different crypto asset like stablecoin or Bitcoin, for example. And in the case of Digibyte, because we don't have yet that demand for the lending side, we're not yet in a position to pay interest on Digibyte. But if there are any companies out there that are looking, or institutional borrowers who are looking to borrow Digibyte, they should definitely get in touch with us, and we'll take a look at that, and then we'll be able to add that for interest payments. So thanks, Joe, for that question. Can you provide more information on the bank that holds the interest account? Also, what is the risk of the interest account? Okay, great question. So we work with a trust company. This is a U.S. chartered bank trust company called Prime Trust, and they are our partner for these interest accounts that you see on the screen. So when you go through the onboarding process, when you provide your ID, your driver's license if you're in the U.S., or your passport if you're outside the U.S., you're actually getting an account at Prime Trust in addition to your Abra wallet. Okay, and so that's why we have to go through that onboarding process. And they've been a fantastic partner. They're again, a regulated financial entity, and hence we have to follow whatever rules they have. In terms of the risk of the interest account, the way the account works, and I've written about this in prior newsletters and also talked about this on Money Talks in the past, so you can go back and take a look at that. But basically what's happening is that you are effectively generating interest, right, on the interest account by Abra effectively doing what a bank would do, except now the difference is you're getting most of that interest as opposed to the bank, all right? Right, the bank is generating lots of cash on your interest, even though, if you put money in Wells Fargo, the interest is effectively zero. Well, they are generating interest on it. They're just not giving it to you. They're keeping it for themselves. The difference here, of course, again, is that you're getting the interest. What we're doing in order to generate that interest or yield is we run an institutional lending desk that signs on high quality, high grade borrowers that are either collateralizing the loans or providing us, and providing us details on their own financials in terms of balance sheet, cash position, and that allows us to make risk-based decisions about lending. And we blend that across a large pool of borrowers in order to keep the risks very, very low. We've never experienced a default, and hopefully we never will. But we continue to do our diligence on bringing on board very high quality business partners on the borrower side in order to generate the yield for you, and myself included as an Abra interest account user. Okay, does the crypto continue to fluctuate with the market? I assume that means if I'm earning interest, does the value of my interest of my crypto continue to fluctuate? The answer is yes. So as you can see, it says here that in this demo account, we have under interest earning BTC, which is Bitcoin, we have 4.572 Bitcoin, and the value of that Bitcoin is listed above. Now that value is relative to the price of Bitcoin right now. If I come back tomorrow, it'll be relative to the price of Bitcoin tomorrow. So I'm still taking risk on the price of Bitcoin. So if I want to go long Bitcoin, that's great. I can actually now earn interest paid in Bitcoin and continue to get the benefit of an increasing price in Bitcoin, so that if I want to sell the Bitcoin later, I get all the benefit, plus I get all the extra Bitcoin in the form of interest, okay? And that interest continues to compound. So the interest that I earned this week will actually generate even more interest for me next week, okay? So I hope that makes sense. Why is there different account requirements for interest accounts? Again, that is because you're getting an account with Prime Trust in addition to your Abra wallet. And we have to basically fulfill the requirements for onboarding with them. Greg asks from Facebook, are there any updates on the new cryptos that are coming? All I can tell you, Greg, is join us next week, and I promise you we'll have some fun and talk about new cryptos. All right, I'm not going to give too much away, otherwise my team will get mad at me. So if the top 3 cryptos go to the moon, what's the max or minimum that you can put into the interest-bearing account or into the interest USD account? So there's no there's no max on how much you can deposit. I think the minimum is $5. My team will correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no maximum. So if you want to put $100 or $1 million, and what's great about it is we have people doing both. We have people in Mexico, for example, who deposit a couple of $100, and we have people in bankers in London who deposit 6-7 figures. So we welcome all comers, and there should be no issue with any deposit size you want. Thanks for that question, Mason. Montana asks, do you think the election could cause a pullback in the crypto markets, or do you think we'll still be uncorrelated? Montana, thanks for that question. Honestly, I'll give you my opinion. Now, if you remember when we were talking about Plan B's comments on the price of Bitcoin relative to the overall stock to flow model, and I'll try to bring that up here again if I can. Let me see while I'm talking if I can bring that up. That model of stock to flow really has no bearing whatsoever on politics, right? It's the most important feature of this model is the fact that the amount of Bitcoin being created goes down over time, and it will eventually stop being created. Okay, that's the most important feature of Bitcoin as it relates to this pricing model. Doesn't matter if in the U.S. Biden wins or Trump wins or there's a tie or whatever. Right now, it's possible that that there is a price change based upon the election in the very, very short term, blip up or down. I have no idea. I have no crystal ball. But long term, honestly, it should make no difference. Even the things that the Federal Reserve is doing now in terms of adding more cash into the economy by buying up all of these different assets, long term, it should make no difference. In the short term, it actually should help Bitcoin because it's actually decreasing the value of the dollar. And I think the dollar is going to have a big problem in the coming years. But that's really just an accelerant, right? The rocket fuel is Bitcoin itself and the hardness of Bitcoin itself. It doesn't really need that help of an election, of the Fed. It's going to do what it's going to do. But we'll take any help we can get along the way. And, let's never underestimate the U.S. government's ability to provide that help and its ability to do stupid things. All right. So can you clarify the wire fees? This is from another online user. So Abra itself does not charge wire fees at all. If we have third-party fees, for example, from our bank partners, we simply pass those fees on to you, but we ourselves don't charge any fees at all for bank wires, nor do we make any profit on bank wires. Okay, so I hope that clarifies that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Always awesome questions. So, by the way, we got people from like 20 countries here. It's pretty cool. Where can I cash in Japan? Osuji asks. Thanks for the question. So, in Japan, right now, this is going to change. I invite you to come back in a couple of weeks and ask the question again. But right now, what you can do in the Abra app is deposit via crypto in Japan, right? So if I press the add money button at the bottom of the app, I'll be able to deposit via crypto and also deposit via a credit card. And soon you'll also be able to deposit via bank wire. So the bank wire transfer function, if you're using the app from Japan, you probably don't see it in the app. Come back in a few weeks, okay? So we'll have more to say about that when the feature is available. That's one I'll give away today because I've talked about that in the past. We are working very hard to get international bank wires turned on. Paul asks, can I set up a bi-monthly deposit into Abra from my bank account? Paul, that's a great idea. That's something we get a lot of requests on, and it's definitely something that we want to look at adding in the future. Now, if your bank supports wires, recurring wires, you can actually set that up at your bank into Abra. Just by going to your bank's website and setting up a recurring money send from your bank into Abra via wire. But we're looking at a mean to be able to pull that money in. And that's something we'll get back to you in the future, but that's a great idea. It's something we would love to offer in the future. Now that Fidelity and Bakkt and other big boys are moving into the crypto markets, do we think that that's going to move the needle in the overall markets this year and next? That's from Roman. I'm kind of rewording a little. Thanks for the question, Roman. So look, again, I don't think that Bitcoin really needs much help, or Ethereum for that matter really need much help from big boys or big players in the traditional investing markets. I think that those things can act as kind of accelerants in terms of maybe in the short term things will go a little faster. But again, I think Bitcoin is going to do what Bitcoin is going to do, right? The fact that there's a fixed supply of it. The fact that the usage continues to go up, that the hash rate continues to go up, it just tells me that over time it is going to go to the moon. That's my personal opinion. I'm not giving investment advice. and it doesn't need the help of all of those other players to get there. But if it does provide an incremental bump or lift, we'll gladly take it as a community of Bitcoin holders. But again, my opinion is it doesn't really need much help to get there. It's going to do its thing to get there. Okay, so lots of questions coming in. Let's jump around here a little bit. Let's see. What's the most bullish video or podcast episode on Bitcoin? Mike Lee. Mike, I'm pretty sure that ours would be at the top of the list. We're pretty bullish on Bitcoin. But there's a whole bunch of them. Peter McCormick, What Bitcoin Did, podcast is fantastic. The Pomp podcast is also fantastic. Laura Shin's Unchained podcast is fantastic. So there's lots and lots of different podcasts out there that you can check out. Can I withdraw my crypto directly to my bank, or do I have to convert it to fiat first? And that is from a Facebook user. So yes, you have to convert to fiat first, I believe. So let me take a look here. So if I want to send crypto via bank wire, right, I just basically put in my bank details, right, and I can submit via bank wire. But generally, what you want to do is you want to basically convert from Bitcoin to true USD and then withdraw that way. Okay, and then the money will just go right to your bank account. All right, so easy peasy, no problem. We're getting some questions about people upgrading their wallets, and let me just clarify this for a second. All right, so a couple of things. If you get a message in the Abra app that you need to upgrade your wallet, do it. Okay, you don't lose funds when you upgrade your wallet. All right, now when you first start using the Abra app, you get a security message, right, to basically view your recovery phrase, validate it, write it down, right, and then use it in the future. Do that right now if you've never done it. Okay, you have to do that. So we got another question coming in. Is Abra based in the US? So yes, Abra is headquartered in the US, but we have staff in different countries. Including not only the US, but we have staff in Asia, we have staff in South America, and we're looking eventually to add staff in Europe as well. Okay, so we're based out here in Silicon Valley. I'm obviously at my home during shelter in place, but we're normally based in beautiful Mountain View, California, right down the road from Google. Okay. When earning interest, is your money locked up for a time period? Anthony asks. Anthony, so we basically ask that you give us a few days to process a withdrawal, but your money is not locked up, right? So generally, if you ask for a withdrawal, you're going to get the money the same day, but usually, allow for 1 or 2 days to process a withdrawal. Okay. If Alex asks, let me see if I understand this question. If I deposit $5,000 for 7 days, what will be my profit? All right. So rather than try to do that in real time, I would suggest you go to Abra.com, and there's a interest calculator on the site, and you can use that interest calculator to test your interest. Roman asks, Bill, will you be talking to Charlie Lee of Litecoin anytime soon for an update on that project? So we love Charlie. Great idea. Would love to get him back. We've had him on before. He's always been a great friend to Abra and, of course, to the Litecoin and Bitcoin communities. I love Litecoin for a couple of different reasons. It's got very similar properties to Bitcoin in terms of, fixed float, all of the great technology. But Charlie is really good, and the community of Litecoin developers is really good about adopting the latest and greatest technologies before Bitcoin. So it actually acts as a pretty cool test bed for the future of Bitcoin. And that's one of the things I also love about all of these really cool altcoins that you see out there is that the more altcoins we have, the more competition we have for new technology. right? And so we think that this is really essential to move the community forward at a faster rate. Okay, so thanks for that, and we'll try to get Charlie on soon to talk about all things crypto. All right, so what else we have here? User asks, "Hi from the Philippines. When will I be able to deposit from Union Bank?" Good question. We love our users in the Philippines. And by the way, we've just been seeing a huge boom in usage in Asia. We thank you for that. We're working very hard to get bank deposits turned on in the Philippines. I don't have an exact time, but we are working very diligently with them locally on the ground to get that turned on. And I promise to update everyone here when that happens. Okay, we have local staff on the ground working on that right now. Let's see. What's happening? Can you please explain what's happening with Ethereum and DeFi? Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So look, right now, it has just been a crazy week, right? So Ethereum reached some crazy price, like I think it was like 480 or close to 500 if it didn't actually reach 500, right? So it's since fallen back down to about 385, right? Which is a pretty healthy drop because it had spiked, I think, too quickly. And I think a lot of this is an anticipation, excuse me, of the Bitcoin 2.0 upgrade. Now, this has led to some interesting issues. One, while we're in the process of waiting for this upgrade, we've had this absolutely crazy phenomenon of all of these DeFi projects being launched, right? And I can read you some of the tokens and what's happened with them. There's Link, and Link went from like $4 up to like $20. There's Dot, which basically went from $2 to like $7 and then back down to $4. And there's more, right? Now, this has created a lot of problems for Ethereum, right? It's also created a lot of demand for Ethereum because you have to feed those transactions some gas. If you're using one of these online decentralized exchanges to swap your DeFi tokens, which some of you in the Abra community are doing, you've noticed that the amount of ETH or gas that you have to pay for these transactions has gone through the roof. And the reason is every single one of those transactions uses the Ethereum network. As a result of this, we've seen gas prices for Ethereum skyrocket. Now, you may have noticed in the Abra network that this led to delays for withdrawals, and even in some cases, us having to institute minimums for withdrawals. This isn't something that Abra wants to do. If the withdraw fee or the send fee that you're paying on the Ethereum network is $20, it doesn't make a lot of sense to send $5 worth of Ethereum. And that's what happened last week. We were seeing gas prices on Ethereum for some transactions of up to $20. Now, this has come way down in the last few days, luckily, and hopefully it will stay there. But right now, it's pretty low. I'm sorry, it's pretty bad and pretty congested. And Ethereum 2.0 cannot come fast enough. So let's come back to DeFi for a second, right? So basically, what's happened is that a bunch of these projects have released tokens that are actually getting more interest than the project itself, right? This is happening because basically these new decentralized exchanges are now able to turn on tokens in real time. Now, this is very dangerous stuff, folks. If you think that Bitcoin and Ethereum is somewhat risky, then I'm telling you flat out, a lot of these DeFi tokens are super risky. So please tread carefully. As I say, I personally put somewhere between 5 and 10% of my money into Bitcoin and Ethereum at any given time. And I put a much, much smaller amount into different altcoins, and then an even smaller amount into some of these DeFi tokens. And that's money that I'm simply not afraid to lose, kind of akin to going to the casino. But with Bitcoin and Ethereum, I'm all in, and I basically leave that for the long term. And I have my long-term bet that the price of Bitcoin, as we've discussed, is going to go into the hundreds of thousands. I have no idea what's going to happen with these DeFi tokens. I really don't. Some of the projects, as I've said in the past, are very interesting, right? The fact that we have these competing technologies to help even Bitcoin move forward and become more decentralized, add more transactional capabilities, add more smart contract capabilities is all very interesting to me. But just realize it's super early days. There's not a lot of applications yet being built on these new platforms. And until that happens, a lot of this run up in price for their tokens is pure speculation. There's nothing wrong with that per se. Just go into it with eyes wide open and do your homework. More importantly, to most Abra users, until we have the Ethereum 2.0 upgrade that I've talked about in the past, we're going to continue to see congestion on the Ethereum network. And the more interest we see in these decentralized or DeFi projects, the more congestion we're going to end up having with Ethereum. So happy to answer any questions. I saw a bunch of questions on this topic, so of the Ethereum transfer fees and the gas fees, and so I thought I'd address it head on. Again, we want the Ethereum gas fees to be zero. That would be my preference, but obviously the network is the network, and so hopefully 2.0 will help relieve that congestion. Okay, so we've got some more questions here. Roman asks, hey Roman, thanks for all the questions today. Shout out to you. What do I think about the Polkadot project? So Roman, I've read a little bit. I haven't really read enough to have a strong opinion. I will take a look at it and ping me on Twitter, and I promise to provide some comments. But right now, I would say I would say I'm not far enough along. It basically the whole idea of Polkadot, if I remember correctly, it tries to enable cross-blockchain transfers between different data types. Very interesting idea. Very noble idea as well. I'll dig in a little bit more and try to come up with more of an opinion. But right now, I'm just looking at the technology, and I'd say the technology is very interesting. You can go to polkadot.network and check it out for yourself. Do you think that using a bridge platform like Syscoin will ease the ETH gas fee? Well, in most cases, using ERC20 tokens is not going to help, and because they actually work on the Bitcoin, on the Ethereum network, right? So every time you do a transaction, now Syscoin itself is not an ERC20 token, but obviously most of the tokens out there, the kind of altcoins are. And that creates issues. Not all of them, or most of them, but a lot of them are. So there's not much we can do about that. But using other low-cost, scalable platforms like Syscoin can definitely help. And as I said, we need the competition, right? And so providing interoperability with ERC20 tokens, which is what Syscoin is trying to do, can help a little bit. But it only helps in the sense that you're getting those transactions off of the Ethereum blockchain. But if you need those transactions to be on the Ethereum blockchain, it doesn't really help. So again, I actually think the Syscoin project itself is pretty interesting, and you can go to syscoin.org to check it out. It's supposed to be super high transaction throughput using this DAG technology, directed acyclic graph technology, which IOTA was the first, I think, to launch with a few years ago. Do you have an opinion on which stablecoin we should use when using the Abra interest account? So you can deposit any stablecoin into Abra, even DAI. And DAI you can convert then to Tether or True USD to generate interest. But in terms of, if I go back to my demo here, in terms of storing PAX or True USD, USDC, or Tether, we don't really care. We treat them all the same. In terms of if you're coming in via Bitcoin or another crypto, I would recommend converting to True USD. And the reason for that is that we use True USD to process withdrawals, and that's our base dollar currency for anybody who's holding dollars. And so you save one step on the withdrawals, and there might be a tiny spread, a couple of pennies on moving between like a DAI and a PAX, or a PAX and a Tether. You avoid all of that if you're using TrueUSD and Abra. But again, for the average user, it really doesn't matter which stablecoin you use. They all work just fine in the Abra app. Okay, let's see. Who is paying more than 10% currently to Abra to borrow your stablecoins? And why would anybody do that when the federal bank rate is near zero? That's a great question. So obviously, the reason that we're able to pay you 10% on your US dollar deposits is that somebody else is paying us more than 10% to borrow those deposits. Now, generally, those deposits that we're lending out are to lenders who are either collateralizing that or have a very, very strong balance sheet. Generally, these are other companies in the cryptocurrency space, not exclusively, but generally they're companies that are in the cryptocurrency space. And they're not going to be able to go to a bank, walk into Wells Fargo and say, hey, give me a loan for 5%. And by the way, because the Fed rate is near zero, doesn't mean that the banks are lending at zero. The banks are basically doing loans, depending on mortgage or personal loans. Most personal loans are in the 6 to 10% range, just to be clear. And so the loan rates that we're paying are over 10, or loan rates that we're seeing are over 10%, but they're from companies in the cryptocurrency space that are not really traditional borrowers in the banking world. And this allows them to basically grow their business, but in a way that's relatively safe for our borrowers because of the balance sheet and collateral requirements that we put on our users. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. Again, just because the Fed rate is at zero does not mean that the banks are lending for zero or lending money out for zero interest. Okay. Walter asks, what is this gas fee that you speak of? So Walter, Ethereum uses, let me take a step back. So in the Bitcoin world, a lot of our users hold Bitcoin. You've heard of the network fee or the mining fee. Ethereum has a similar concept called gas. Now, gas is ETH itself that is used to pay for a transaction. They have their own word for this gas. It's called GWEI, Gwei. But GWEI is actually a certain amount of ETH that's used to get your transaction accepted by nodes on the Ethereum network. That's all it is. Okay. Now, when the network is congested, like it has been the past few weeks, that gas fee or the GWEI fee can be really, really high. And it tends to spike up and down with the price, which tends to drive a lot of volume and liquidity in the system. Not much we can do about that except hope and pray that the Ethereum 2.0 upgrades to proof of stake actually work really well, and that they come very, very soon. And I know that Vitalik and the community have been working crazy hard, and we're really appreciative of the Ethereum community's efforts, right? I mean, if you look at what's happening with Ethereum in terms of stablecoin adoption, ERC20 tokens, it is just awesome. I mean, Ethereum has basically, from nothing over the last 7-8 years, become the world's first platform for effectively creating new currencies on the fly. And that is super cool. And so a lot of my fellow brethren in the Bitcoin community are kind of down on Ethereum. I'm not. I'm very bullish on the usage of Ethereum over time. Can't really say much about the price of Ethereum, but as the world's computer, I am really bullish on Ethereum. Okay. Do I think it's important to buy Bitcoin on more than one platform? Is it okay to hold all of my Bitcoin on one platform like Abra? That's from Rich. Rich, great question. I actually only use Abra, and most of my friends only use Abra. They used to use other exchanges. Invariably, what I find is people that used other exchanges move their Bitcoin to Abra because it's much easier. They get access to more altcoins, and now they, of course, can store their Bitcoin in Abra and make interest on it. And like I said, we use very high quality, high grade, very secure custody partners to manage our Bitcoin, both in the trading accounts as well as the interest earning accounts. And I only use Abra. So I have no problem with that. A lot of my friends are doing that. A lot of you have told us that's what you're doing. So I don't think there's any issue with using just Abra for buying your Bitcoin. And let's see, if I'm banned from buying Bitcoin and Abra, why doesn't Abra tell me why? Patrick, So the issue here is that the banking system as it relates to Bitcoin is ripe and rampant with fraud, and Abra is basically working constantly with our bank partners to improve the onboarding process and eliminate false positives. If you are convinced that you were blocked for an incorrect reason, please reach out to support@abra.com and they will do their best to help you. They can't always help you in those instances because sometimes it's not on us, it's on the bank. But they'll do so. So then another user asks, are interest accounts better than cold storage wallets? Well, it depends, right? So if you want to earn interest, I think interest accounts are the best way to go. And so for me, I used to buy Bitcoin on Abra and put it in cold storage. I don't do that anymore. Now I put it in my Abra interest account because why shouldn't I take the 4% interest that Abra is willing to give me? And I know how we generate the interest, and I'm very comfortable that Abra is doing a great job in mitigating the risk associated with generating that interest. And so I don't have to worry about losing my hardware wallet, my token, my key. I just rely on Abra to do that. And I write down my backup phrase and I keep it in a safe place and I have no problem. So I strongly prefer that approach. Okay, look folks, it's 10 o'clock. I can't believe it's 10 o'clock. These hours fly by every week. And the reason they fly by is because you all ask the best questions. So again, thank you for your support. Please press the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen if you're watching on YouTube. The show recording will be up. Please tell your friends to go watch. And please come back each week, especially next week. The next couple of weeks, we're going to have some pretty cool announcements. So come back for that. I look forward to digging in on what those announcements are. I dropped a few hints today, so if you go back and watch again, maybe you'll pick up on what those were. Again, have a great weekend. Stay safe. We'll see you next week on Money Talks. Thanks, everyone.